Hello everybody. I wanted to talk about some other things that I feel should be talked about, and they are not pleasant at all. But I want to make it as pleasant as possible, because there is no positive way to bring a negative message, and there's no way to bring resonance to someone who's not ready to hear the message. So I'm just going to say it to those of you who are ready to hear it, and it relies around the possibility that the original source of the original people, not the Aboriginal, because that means not original, that the original source may have the key to the all, which is the knowledge that connects us to everything of what we need to connect to. And I have a question for you, anyone out there who listens. What are the chances, just a chance if there's one, what are the chances that the whole curriculum core-based program of the planet, of the United Nations, let's be real, of the Vatican, who created the United Nations, let's be realistic, very realistic, of the possibility that they do still want us to be disconnected absolutely from the true science, which is the Indigenous perspective, which is not a perspective, it's just what we call it in the West, a perspective, a way to perceive something. How do we perceive things? It's such an interesting topic. What are we perceiving? What are we receiving? If you're not receiving anything from the nature, why would I care what you're perceiving? I don't care. But what I do care about is what's being perceived in nature by those who receive. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a receiver, but I will sit here and say that I receive those who think they receive. And I know what's bullshit and what's not. And when the government, worldwide, not just an independent government to government, nation to nation alteration in programming, if we look deeper at our history, what happened to all the indigo people? What happened to the Indigenous people of every single country on the planet? But I only stand here, I stand here gratified, absolutely graceful, grateful on Aboriginal land, Indigenous original land. What do we believe? Where did it come from? What does it mean? And what are the other possibilities out there, if not the given choice of freedom information given to those by great scholars who wanted to connect us to the divine, but they never used those words. They used those words in the 15th century and the 14th century during the periods when all the people had the illumination of knowledge, not when it was channeled to the priests, but when it was known by all and shared by all. Right now, I am at Umfeston Cave, and I'm watching a lot of foreign interest coming to this place. And so right where we are in Mount Gambier in South Australia. So Mount Gambier in South Australia has a claim, a government claim. And you see the signs as you come into the town. And they say, the cleanest water in the country. One thing I have a problem with by those people bringing that claim is, how do they define clean water? Because I define it in my own way. I've done a lot of searching. I've done a lot of repeat searching, researching if you like. I've done a lot of searching what pure water would be. And my understanding is it's provided by the nature. It's all of what we need. It's everything that we need, according to who? So when you put a sign on your city by the government, a registered corporation of of the empire that states that you've got the cleanest drinking water in the country. And when I come here and I see no history of indigenous writings into this land, where did it go? Because all the indigenous history accounts for all the land, and they've all got a story of everywhere on the land. But you won't find anything on Mount Gambier, as the locals will say, not a mountain, just a glorified hill. What is pure water? What is water? Because the indigenous people saw it as the all, flowing through the all, going through everything, and being to the now, into your mouth, to electrify you. But what does the government do to that water? At the plant, they don't plant trees. They don't. I've seen it. Because that's what's most purest for water. It holds the banks together. But you don't see trees at the dams. And what is a dam? It is a place that people drink from. A controlled regulatory body of water. Just as government is a controlled regulatory body of people. But what is a regulated body of water when the number one thing that purifies us electrically is air and water? Air is another subject, but water is the subject now. Everyone talks about sedatives and additives being added to the water, but no one talks about what happens in the original process, and it's demineralization. So how does the water become electric in nature? Not by taking the minerals out that make it electric, that's for sure. Does the lightning from the heavens strike the water to electrify it? A body of water electrified? Does the water flow over an edge, striking a lower body of water, creating sonoluminescence, which is the inside core, the nucleus of each particle of water, sending its electrical current outward to the proton or electron, creating a spark of light in each particle of water. Research sonoluminescence because you can see many great things about it, and it's just a start to what might take us to somewhere of a greater stance of where we were from today with the understanding of water. And I always thought it was really interesting that water starts with the word war. So I'm at Umfeston Cave. They call it a cave. This is called the Limestone Coast, the limestone capital of Australia. And there's roughly hundreds, if not thousands, of holes in this place that I can't identify as anything other than nuclear warfare on sacred indigenous land, guardianed by the most powerful warriors of the country that have no story about these places. Have you ever heard of Blue Lake in Australia? Well, it doesn't matter whether it's in Australia. Look up all the blue lakes in the world, and as beautiful as the water looks, what is the shape the water sits in? Because if I go to Mexico and I type in sinkholes in Mexico, I'll see much the same that I see in indigenous original Australia. I see atomic bomb holes. I see holes in the earth. I see regions of warfare where no one talks about warfare. And if you look at any map of Australia, I recommend anyone go to Google Maps, download Google Earth if you haven't got it on your phone as Google Maps, and go to the satellite tool. Don't look at the cartoon graphics that they give you. They want you looking at cartoons wherever you go. When you see the weather, which is water, when you see the weather, they show you in cartoons, and they show you state by state. They don't show you the whole landmass being accounted for as to the precipitation ratios, because it's all relevant. What's happening in Western Australia is relevant to what's happening here. but it's in a cartoon. And is that what you want? Do you want your weather presented to you by someone who knows nothing about nature? In a cartoon, your parents get their weather this way. Do you get your weather this way? I don't get my weather this way because the forecasters of weather, the weather forecasters, they cast the weather. Have you ever heard of weather modification? Have you ever heard of looking into written history? Because I'm not talking about a conspiracy. I'm talking about what the Geelong newspaper, the Ararat newspaper, the Bendigo newspaper, the Ballarat newspaper, all of the greater regions of rural Melbourne and inner city Melbourne, look at the newspapers, look it up. They were all talking in the 1890s, 19th century, 1900s, 1910, 1920. They were all talking about how to harness the weather, and we will do so. So they said, and they did. And they even brought out news reports stating that they did when they did. But we don't believe in this anymore. I see what they did there. I don't always want to see what they did there, but I see what they do there. And you can run from it, you can hide from it. But do you see what they did there? Do you see how we are, as a country of Australia, we are in a water crisis. Don't forget the word ISIS from the word crisis, because Isis is the moon goddess and she controls the waters. So what's a crisis of water, surely? When I know that the water flows from the oceans to the inlands, unless the government puts a ban on those and restricts them and calls them a reservoir or a dam or a bay. While everyone runs around talking about a water shortage, when the sky is water, underground is water, the air's a content of water, majorly. But we're in a water crisis presented by those who took the water away. I want to challenge anybody that might be new to this information to get on your map and go to any river inlet and follow it all the way. You'll only get about 10 k's from every inlet until you see that it's dammed and controlled going to agriculture, or whatever they say. It doesn't have to be about it going to agriculture, it's about it not going to you as a pure water source in a water crisis. Brought to you by those who control the weather and drought. And if you don't know about this yet, how can you know about it? Where else can you go to find out about it? My understanding is that Tesla, Serbian physicist, was a genius. And he didn't figure out any new information. He connected straight to the Egyptian knowledge. That was his claim. He claimed that everything he learned was from Egypt through learning the Badu Netcha, which is the language of Kemet, Egypt if you like. And he stated how electricity moves, how the electric field of the body correlates with that, and how to change both at the same time. And he said, if you use this tool that I've created, it will be a weapon. And he fought not for this tool to be used. So where the water is sacred, is the land still sacred? Is the being still sacred? What is sacred to those who get water out of the tap every day? Treated water? Treated with what? Because when I go to my supermarket and I look at every single box of rat kill, what kills the rat, what they test to get results for humans in nutrition and pharmacy, they test rats. They don't test humans, they test rats. So why is it that what I'm being taught in school makes my bones stronger, sodium fluoride, is the only ingredient that kills a rat in rat kill. Who introduced it publicly? Adolf Hitler, during the reign of Auschwitz and Buchenwald. He opened up a tap in Buchenwald where the people were crying for water. They were crying to get out. They were crying to get out. They didn't want to be there. They wanted to get out. They hated oppression. They fled oppression. They marched through the mountains. The Jewish people marched through the mountains of Germany like mountain Jews, which is a word that we use for communists, mountain Jews. Interesting. And Kool-Aid, we drink that. But when the people want to get out of the camp of concentration, how do they get out? Do they need to anymore when they've been sedated? Do they want to? No, they don't, and they didn't, and they stayed. And I hear that they were quite calm there. And it reminds me of where I go and I see people drinking tap water everywhere I go. Everyone's fine. But fine to me is a bad day in the weather, according to the meteorologist. But what do we want? Do we want to know the truth? Or do we want to paint a version according to what we've learned to what the truth might be? Because one thing that I know for sure is that if you want the truth, you'll never find it by those who took it. So when I come to Mount Gambier, and when I come to South Australia, and they call it the purest water, and I drink it, and it tastes like shit, and that's the purest water that we can supply to our people, what do? What if you really want pure water? But does it matter? Because we've all got water, we're all drinking the same water. What is water? And why are we being convinced, deceived, absolutely deceived into sustainability by who? By those who set up the missions for the Indigenous people. They stop the water, they trap it, the flowing water that never runs out. The water will never dissolute. We will always have fresh water, but not according to who? According to those who dammed our water and selectively choose the farmers they want it to go to. Are you growing organically? No, you shall not receive water. Come to this side of the bridge. Is that the game we want to play? That's the game we're playing. What do we want? I want the truth. And I don't want to be told that there is an Aboriginal perspective and a new historical way of innovating knowledge. I want to know the truth. Does the government have the truth? Or does the Indigenous culture hold something that the government hopes to eliminate, and they are, and the Holocaust didn't end? And do we know that Holocaust is Latin for fire ritual? But did we forget the rituals that the Empire laid upon us? Then why do we keep falling for the same bullshit every time? I don't. But one thing I do is I love knowledge, and I love connecting to what not might be the truth, but what absolutely is the truth. What is the truth? Do the Aboriginal people, the original people, do they know the truth? And the agencies are trying to take us away from that? Or do they know nothing at all? Because I am 100% sure that they don't know nothing at all. I'm 100% sure that they know everything that needs to be known. What might that be? Sustainability? How to sustain the land, not how to sustain the land, how to maintain the land absolutely so that she will bring us many, many prospers. Why would you want that? Do you know in some parts of the world, community gardening is being banned while community gardening is being opened up in other cities with an agenda to ban it? Have you ever heard of the Earth Charter through the United Nations or Agenda 21? I highly recommend anyone to do some deep research onto the political basis of Agenda 21, which is sustainability and how to maintain that sustainability according to who. So what is sustainability when you don't know how to sustain your own self? I find it really hard sometimes to... I don't find it really hard, I find it a real big struggle to talk about so many things to the ears that have been closed by what I would like to call particular programming. And what do the Indigenous people have to say about the way of sustainability? Of the Western mind that doesn't listen to the nature, that listens to the corporacy, that tells them how to be, to how they should think, how they should feel, why they shouldn't worry about certain things. Don't worry about it. One of the most common phrases in my country is, she'll be right. She is the nature. Will she be right? I'm sure she's strong enough, but is she right not to consider her? Or should we consider her? Because everything we have is from her. Why not? Why not just speculate what it means to be connected in an Indigenous way to an understanding? I don't like to use the word understand, but to overstand the nature, to stand over the understanding of the nature in order to be able to benefit from it, to do something with it. What do we learn about nature? The deepest thing in 2020 that I can connect to for the major population is permaculture, which comes from South Australia, where I am currently. It comes from this place in Australia, so they say, and it was a white man. It was a white man, and what was permaculture based on? How to make the land work within the land, everything working ecologically. This isn't permaculture, this is Indigenous land care. This is how the original people were caring for the land. Don't tell me it was a white man. Don't tell me that you're interested in permaculture but not interested in Indigenous Australia. I don't care. And they're rolling in their graves that we play golf on. Did you know that nearly every golf course in Australia is on an Aboriginal burial site? How disrespectful. And Westfield shopping centres, how disrespectful. And we all shop at the mall. We have no idea where our history has come from. But if only we connected to her story, but we would absolutely know where our history had come from. So, what do we want? Do we want the truth? Because for me personally, I don't mind how much it hurts, physically or mentally. I want the truth. And it hurts. And it feels so good at the same time to know that whatever version of history you're repeating to the people that listen, if they listen, You're not hurting them, you're giving them truth. And even though it hurts, you're connecting them to a soul truth of the universe, that the original people of the land, ask them. They know the land, they'll tell you, they'll even welcome you into their homes. When did we welcome them into ours? This is not our home, this is their home, and we still have opposition to them, to the divine architects of the land. What do they believe? Have you asked them? What would you ask an Indigenous person if you had the chance? Would you ask them what they eat? Would you ask them relevant questions? Or would you sit and listen, knowing that you're about to be learned some whole new knowledge that completely destroys what you knew, what you thought you knew? And it's new knowledge. Do you want the old knowledge, which was always known? How to build the pyramids, how they connect to the stars. We can't do that anymore, but do you want to learn that? Or do you want to learn the misconceptions within the deceptions? I don't want that. I'm okay without that. But I'm asking, what do you like the idea of? Do you like the idea of being deceived? You don't? Then why are you allowing that deception? I don't have a problem with Aboriginal people. They're really violent and I don't know, they just... What did we do to them? Did we forget the history? And they should just open up to you like you're worthy? What is the history? What is the volatility? And what is the integrity that they should tell us the knowledge of the land when we came here? And if they didn't tell us what they knew, we killed them. And guess what we did when they told us what they knew? We killed them. And you want to just walk into their tribe and connect to their language? No. What is your sensitivity? What is your cultural sensitivity? Are you interested in what they might know? Or do you want to connect to the truth? Is what you might want to know. But who are you to know the truth upon entering the path of wanting to know a bit more? And the one thing that I know about this land that I'm in Mount Gambier, is I'm in the land of spiritual warrior Australia, the man that would not fall for the sake of falling. If you came here and told me you were going to steal my land, and I told you you could share it with me, which is what they did. They wanted to share the land with us, and we said no, we will kill you and we will have your land. And you want to learn about what they have to tell you? Cultural appropriation. We have nothing to teach them. Nothing. We have many things to share with them, and I find it quite interesting that they don't want it. Because look at the land of Australia when we came. It was divine. Read a book called The Greatest Real Estate on Earth, and it quite beautifully enlists many poems from people who came here as the first people to come to the land uninvited by war. And it tells many poems about how they envisaged the land that they came. What does it mean to be an Aboriginal Australian? It means that if you use the word Aboriginal, You're acknowledging them as not people of the land, not the original people. But the question comes, where did that word come from? Where did we use the word Aboriginal from? It was the government that gave that to us. Of course it was. They wanted us to connect that they were not the original people, that we are now the original people. I see what they did there. But what do they want to do with that? Why did they really come here? And why was the medicine man of Indigenous Australia the first ones that were killed? Because they knew nothing? Or because they were a threat to the empire that takes us away from health? So, all I really want to say is what does it matter? What does it matter that they don't need us when they're not interested in hearing what we have to say because they've been so hurt? But we have the right to tell them what we want to tell them? No. That we have the right to go through Western school, educated, and tell them what we learned? It's not that they don't understand, it's that they understand they don't want to know because there's nothing that they can learn from in that. But do you know that? Do you know that almost everything you learned in school was a lie? Especially the version of history. Because when I go to all these places that are just holes in the ground, I know there were nuclear detonations. I know that the Aboriginal people were destroyed. And I know that the history of Australia is concealed and re-instituted through curriculum of Rome. Rome, that created the missions. They call it the mission. You go to Mission Beach in Queensland, and that was where most of the bad things happened to these cultures. This beautiful culture of women who ruled, not the man. The woman ruled, and the man, he was subservient to the woman because she was the one that knew all the political implications of nature, the environment, and the all. One thing I know for sure is that they are, without question, absolutely strong in their will of knowledge, and they know what they need to know. And what do we know? What is our interest in affairs of Indigenous knowledge, the real wisdom of the planet? And what do you do when you want to know more? You look it up on Google. Interesting. So I have nothing much else to say right now. I just felt like I really had to say that. And thank you for listening. Please ask questions to yourself, not to me. Ask me questions, I'll help you where I can. Ask questions to yourself. Ask questions to the officials. Ask questions to anyone who brings you this knowledge from top-down rule. You are at the bottom. And you think they conquer the countries to give you the knowledge? You think they took the knowledge of the universe away from us and give us the Big Bang Theory on TV, where they write the mathematical equation on the whiteboard in 3.5 seconds to tell you exactly how the universe was formed, you are being fucked so hard. And it might not be appearing of how much you're being fucked. Because when you're born being fucked, you might just normalize that into your life. But I really want to make people wonder what else might be out there through their soul vessels by connecting to the land of the ultimate, which is the divine landscape holders, the indigenous people, the ones that know the stars, the soil, the animals, the plants, the sea, and the we, the people, and the spirit running through all. Coincidentally, that science says does not exist. Well, how about that? That nothing is based on energy, and Einstein was right, and the ether is not electric. You can't hear my voice running through it, but you can. You can hear my voice, so this is electric. So what do the indigenous people have to say about the electric field? That is the dream time. While you're dreaming on your television, lost, aimless wanderers, they are not the aimless wanderers that we labelled them to be in the 1788 Encyclopedia Britannica. We are the aimless wanderers aiming our wander where? Ask yourself that. Where are you going? Because they were going there. Where are you going? Are you going there? Do you want to? And that question is for yourself to answer. Thank you.